everyone. Happy Easter. He is risen. He is risen indeed. I hope everybody is having a great Easter Sunday. And I know I've been having a great day and just want to do a quick video on what has happened this last week on the layout. And if you remember, I promised that we would have some plaster and some color and scenery hopefully in this area, and it has not happened for a number of reasons. First of all is that I want to get these bridges in first. Nothing is worse than trying to tear into scenery to put in things like bridges as an afterthought or to do it afterwards. So I decided I would go ahead and do some work on the bridges and get that done first, and then this coming week we'll be able to go ahead and put down the plaster and do the scenery work and everything. Just think it will work out a lot better. Definitely do that when I have tunnels and tunnel portals and the abutments and so forth, but I did have a little bit of a mishap. I needed some .080 styrene to do the abutments for the overpasses, and I ordered it. And if you can see on this, it went to Chicago, which is good. That's close to me. Departed Chicago and then went to Palatine, which is even closer to me, so we're doing good. And then from Palatine, though, it went to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Not really sure why. They must have figured out it was in the wrong place, because then they sent it to Little Rock, Arkansas, and then Momwell, Arkansas, and then finally back to Chicago. Must have figured it out this time. And then it went to Palatine, and then Palatine correctly, it went to McHenry, and finally got here on the 28th. I ordered it on the 21st, like on Friday. Didn't come in till Thursday. So in the meantime, I decided I was going to go ahead and work on the backdrop. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I did some backdrop work. Actually, I think Monday and Tuesday I mostly played with trains. But then I finally got to work on this backdrop, and I wasn't real happy with the color of either one of them. I was looking at some of the detail here, and it was in pretty bad shape. Now, this is its third layout that it's been on, and there was a mismatch of color, some scrapes and so forth, and wasn't real happy with the quality of work. And I thought, I think I'm just going to redo this backdrop altogether. Had some seams here I needed to work on as well. So I decided to go ahead and do some work and get this backdrop in a little bit better shape. And the first thing I want to do is take care of these seams. So use some rubber cement. Here you can see I have a truck trailer in there to hold the sheets apart while it dries. So you brush it on, and then you let it dry for 10 minutes or so, and then you just push it up, and it closes up nice and smoothly. What's kind of nice about rubber cement is that you can then, once it's on there, you can pull it apart again and then push it back together. So you can pull it off, put it back, pull it off, put it back a number of times. And so I decided to do both seams. Now this is a seam that I need to have for the electric panel. But I decided to go ahead and use some rubber cement and glue it. And I'm figuring that when it comes time to change a breaker or whatever, I can pull it off, change the breaker, and then put it back on again. Now, so here's how I paint the backdrops. First thing, of course, is to have a nice flexible brush. Can't be something that's real stiff. It's got to be a soft bristle. And then the main procedure is to use blue, sky blue, and white, and kind of use them both at the same time. And so you do the blue, the sky blue at the top. And it looks like it's this is going to be too dark, but then when you use the white, you do that at the bottom. And you know, on the sky, the horizon is white, and then as it goes up the horizon into the sky, it changes into the sky blue. So that's kind of what we're trying to work for here. So now I dipped it in the white, but it's still coming out a little blue because I still have some blue in the brush from painting the blue on. So we basically have the solid blue, indecision here, solid blue on the top and the bluish white on the bottom. Then the goal is to, once you get that looking the way you want, is to go ahead and try to merge the two together. So I'm still here on the white now. And then I'm just basically going on both top and bottom and basically trying to merge the two together. Now the key to this is to not have any, well, not have it fall off on you, first of all, but not have any brush strokes visible. So you have to go back and forth, lifting the brush off of the backdrop, and then not have any brush strokes appearing at all. So here I'm trying not to have any brush strokes. Wasn't too careful on getting paint on the sheetrock behind it. I figured I'm not going to have to worry about that. And here I am now working on the next section. Putting the blue on the top. White on the bottom. Now you have to make sure your paint is on the brush is always there. If the brush gets too dry, then it's not able to blend the two colors together as well. So you get the idea of putting everything together and getting kind of a transition from the white horizon to the blue of the sky. And this is kind of what it turned out. Definitely looks a lot better. I'm still not the greatest at it. Not an artist at all as far as painting goes. There's one little section there right where that hill is I'm really not too happy with, but the rest of it looks pretty good. I might go back and redo that at some point in time. Now, one thing to keep in mind also is that there will be some photo cutouts I'm going to then put on top of this. So a lot of the white, a lot of this is going to be covered up, and then what's left won't be too visible. Right there is where I wasn't too happy. Right there. So I may, we'll see how it looks when I put the photo backdrops up. And I'll do the cutout this time instead of doing the full sheet. I've been doing the full sheet on the upper level and then using the backdrop and the cutouts on the lower level. So overall, I thought it looked pretty good for now. At least definitely better than it was. I also added another row of LED lights from Amazon. And here you can see the difference between the second row and not having the second row. I was trying to eliminate the shadow. Definitely an improvement. All right, now the Bridges. And this is the prototype here. There's 2 underpasses in Oregon, and they're pretty much identical. And you can see the concrete abutments, which is what I kind of wanted to go for, and then the green bridge. You can see the height is 14 feet 3 inches. Here's the other one. This one's a little bit higher. It's 15 feet 3 inches, but they're pretty much identical. And I was, definitely wanted to try to replicate it as much as possible. And then one thing also to note is that it has a ballasted bridge. So it's ballasted all the way through. Now, one problem I had is this control point was part of the overpass on one end. So a lot of times when I'm doing bridges, I just cut out the wood, remove the track for the bridge, and then cut out the wood, and then put the bridge across and put the bridge track back across and so forth. It was not going to work for this part of the bridge because I had a crossover on top of it. So I needed to keep the wood in place. So was looking for the best way to cover that up. I knew I was not going to be able to do an exact replica of the bridges, but I wanted to have it definitely be something that was very similar to it. Now here's the styrene that finally came in after it did a tour of Arkansas first. But I got 3 sheets of 0.080 styrene. And I basically just kind of use the styrene to make a mark on the paper because I'm going to need to cut the paper and kind of slide the styrene back behind there to make the bridge abutments. And then once I had a little marking there, then I used an X-Acto knife to cut through there as smoothly as possible. Definitely helps to have a sharp knife. And then you can just go ahead and slide the piece of styrene in there and mark with a pencil where it was going to need to be cut. And then flip it around and do it on the other side. Mark where it needs to be cut there. And I just marked on with the across there, and I actually wanted it to go higher than that. So I did not cut it where the pencil mark was. I went about a ½ inch higher. And the reason why I wanted to go a ½ inch higher was because I wanted to make sure it was at the correct height compared to the bridge and compared to where the track is. So I want to make sure that the concrete went up high enough to cover up the track. And there's a picture later on where it kind of shows where the rails are in comparison to the bridge. So that's kind of what I was shooting for. Now I needed also to cover up this wood, obviously. And this is kind of how it came out after I cut all the pieces. Now to make it a little bit thicker to represent the concrete, I did put laminated 3 together on the top where the track is, but not on the whole thing. I just kind of cut pieces to fit everywhere. And I was looked pretty good. I was happy with everything except that it was too high. When I actually measured it, the height between the road and the bridge was like 18, 19 feet. And I was like, okay, that just is too much. The proportions looked wrong as well as it being wrong. So I decided I was going to have to change that. And so I basically came up with some scrap wood. The lower piece is from my deck, leftover pieces from my deck. That's the fascia of my deck that I built. And then I just have 3/8 inch plywood on top of that. So this is basically a ½ inch plus 3/8 of an inch. So what's that, 7/8 of an inch thick? And then once I had that in and screwed it down, then I used some cardboard to kind of have the terrain go up to meet there. I used some hardboard to kind of smooth out the transition to the existing road going in both directions. Now this is kind of how it looks now. The proportions are definitely much closer to what the prototype is. Of course, the big departure from the prototype is the through girder bridge and not the I-beam bridge that they have. Now, I did look on the internet. I was going to post a picture of it, but I forgot. But I did find examples of through girder bridges that have ballasted. Now, here you can see a picture where you can see the top of the rails. So when you're looking at it, you can just see the top of the rails. And then that's kind of what I was shooting for, and it came out pretty good, almost exact. All right, now here's the other one. This is the one at the control point, and it also turned out to be a little too high. Not as bad as the other one, but it definitely was higher than it was supposed to be compared to the prototype. Overall, I think these are gonna look pretty good. So I did the same kind of deal. This time, though, I just put a 3/8 inch piece of plywood in there. The other bridge, by the way, came out to about 14 feet. And actually almost 15 feet. This one's about 14 feet, 3 inches here. And then again, put the cardboard in there to kind of make the transition. And then put paper on top of that, which you can see here. So, turned out pretty good. This one here was the one that was the shallowest between the two. So this one's 14 something, the other one's like 15. Now, notice how sharp the corners are. Here, that's not too bad, but it's one thing I do when I use styrene to represent concrete is I sand them down and use a file. So here, you can see these I've kind of filed the corners a little bit and sanded them down. Here, I just basically use a big old file to kind of round off the corners. And I'll use some plastic putty also, or a plastic filler, so you won't be able to see the seams and so forth, and hopefully it'll look nice. Now, one other issue I have here is the wood showing when you had to take a picture from here. So I covered that up with a evergreen I-beam. This is a 1/4 inch I-beam piece. So you still see the wood if you get really low, but for the most part, especially when you're standing by the layout, you see the I-beam under there, so it looks pretty good. Now again, I don't know, this is not off of any prototype except for the abutments. Kind of a, I don't know, kind of kit bashing or proto-lanced or freelanced. But I think it looks pretty good. I think it's definitely plausible. As I said, I did find examples of through girder bridges that were ballasted bridges, so I think that works. And I am going to, of course, paint the bridge and the I-beam underneath it green to match the color of the prototype. As we see some trains going across the one. This is the one at the control point. So I'm really happy that I got these in. I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get any plaster work done this week, but I think it definitely was a smart decision to go ahead and get the bridges in first. Now I should be able to get the plaster in, and then Once I have the plaster in, I'm going to go ahead and spray paint the abutments, a concrete color. And then once I get that done and get the track painted, then I'll paint the plaster and put the ground foam on and so forth, and get it looking as prototypical as possible. Here we'll see it coming in on the other one. This is my CNW one. I had sent it back and I got a new one because the ditch light was not working on it. So now I have a CNW with working ditch lights. And we'll see a couple trains go across here. So I think it looks pretty good. By the way, one thing I did use that was very, very helpful was a scale ruler by that Lombard Hobbies has. Definitely is very useful. It's 12 inches long, so good size, and the gradients go all the way to the edge, so you can just set it on the edge and you can take measurements. But it's got inches on one side, 12 inches, and then on the other side it's got N scale, N scale and HO scale. So if you're looking for a scale ruler, definitely recommend that. It's much improved over what I had been using. I think it's like $5-6. So it's not expensive either. So you might want to check that out at Lombard Hobbies. Thanks so much for watching. We will have plaster and hopefully some scenery next week. Stay tuned for that. Have a great Easter, everyone. Take care.